Welcome back. It's Boomer TV again. I'm Paul Poteet again.
I'm Julie Patterson.
Again.
We're glad that you're here again.
You're going to talk to a movie maker.
Yeah, he is got his own production. He's done the Christmas Attic story. The new one that comes out is Eva. She's a Holocaust survivor. Very fascinating. Followed her for 2 years for this piece.
And this is interesting. We have a little theme going because we're going to talk about Western movies too.
You know, they're very influential. I know you told me your dad loves them.
My dad loves Western movies. Yeah.
The Idle Jorg Museum has an exhibit that you won't want to miss, and we'll give you a sneak peek.
Very showbiz. Okay, now you need a place to go sometimes, or your parents need a place to go where they get a little boost.
An assistance. The Indiana Assisted Living Association is going to be on the show tonight, giving you some tips in case you're thinking about that next chapter in your life or your parents.
You're going to meet a guy who he publishes the IBJ, he runs a bank, he does crosswords for the New York Times, not just does them, he writes them for the New York Times, but that's another story. Mickey Maurer is going to be on Boomer TV this evening too.
Big name locally, so find out what he's been up to.
Summer camp is the theme of that one, and we're going to go up and away.
Yes, in a hot air balloon. Mel McMahon's going to, I guess, show us the ins and outs of that. I've never done it.
It's going to be quite the view.
It'll be quite colorful.
Well, that's a different show.
Oh.
It's not our show. The View.
Hope we don't get a view.
It's all coming up. Boomer TV is made possible with support from
Westport Homes, dedicated to building homes for every chapter of life, with plans and details that match a customer's specific needs and style. More information on Westport Homes' lifestyle collection, including community locations, at westport-home.com.
With over 70 years of combined legal experience, Altman, Poindexter, and Wyatt attorneys serve clients throughout Central Indiana with wills, trust, and estates. More information is available at apwlawyer.com.
Unique Home Solutions, serving more than 30,000 homeowners since 1983. Providing home remodeling services from minor updates to complete renovations with a mission to improve appearance and efficiency. More at uniquehomesolutions.org.
We get to meet some of the coolest people doing this show, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, people that are involved in things you don't think people are involved in around here.
Exactly right,
You know?
like you. No.
Well,
And
yeah.
Ted Green. Have you heard of him?
Now, Ted Green is in the movie business.
Yeah, he's a producer, and he did the Christmas Attics piece on WFYI. Also a piece coming up, you'll see it in October, about a Holocaust survivor. Fascinating, and you'll get to meet him on tonight's show.
She took a handful of corn kernels and threw it in that corner of the room and made us kneel there on the corn kernels for an hour, while the rest of the kids were permitted to come and make fun of us.
Well, I want to talk to you about your documentary, Eva.
Okay.
You traveled for 2 years to capture all of it?
Yes, this was a 2-year journey for WFYI and I, and we went all over the place. We went with her to Romania, to her tiny little Romanian town of Ports, where her family, the only Jewish family, was carted out of town while all the neighbors watched on her way to Auschwitz. We went with her to Auschwitz twice, and even had a chance to interview her in what she calls the blood lab. I mean, I should say this.
Oh, wow.
Eva was only 10 years old, and she had a twin named Miriam, and they were what they call Mengele twins. They were experimented on by one of the biggest sadists in the Nazi realm, Dr. Joseph Mengele, as his trying to build the perfect race. Well, he would do experiments on these kids, and that was their life. And we were able to interview her in the room where they strapped these kids down, and they would take blood from one arm and they'd inject them with these mysterious injections in the other that would make them, horribly sick and do all sorts of terrible things to them. And so that, to interview her there was great. But on the bright side, we also got to go with her to Israel, where she and her twin sister first tasted freedom at age 16, arriving on a boat off the port of Haifa. And so there we are. We take her on a little boat. We rented it. We off the port of Haifa. First time she's been there since 1950 when it first happened. And impromptu, she just breaks into the Israeli national anthem because that's what everybody on the boat sang when they first arrived.
כל עוד בלב הפנימה, ארץ יהודי חופשייה.
With Eva Kor, I don't think you could ever find in one single body a greater example of the triumph of the human spirit than a person who was a Mengele twin and now travels the world to teach healing through forgiveness.
Forgive your worst enemy. It will heal your soul and it will set you free.
So Eva is a bit of an adopted Hoosier for us, and I know she was the Grand Marshal of the 500 Festival Parade one year.
That's right.
Did she love that experience?
She loved it. In fact, one thing in particular, it was on the red carpet at the Speedway where she met none other than Nikki Sixx, and they sparked a quick friendship that actually resulted in Eva going to Los Angeles and being on his radio show. He thought it was fascinating, and you should have seen the response from his heavy metal viewers
I'm sure.
to this 80-year-old, 4'9" woman in Indiana. It was cool to see.
So tell me about the educational component of Eva.
It is something else seeing her stand in front of a room full of young people and what they get out of her messages of compassion and inclusiveness and just her whole inspirational way. And so what we have done is we have shortened the documentary to 1 hour, so a much easier bite for teachers, and also we've created a really cool curriculum guide that's interactive, includes parts of the film and all that, and we just think that this is the way that her message will be carried on to future generations. So I'm really proud of what's going on there.
When does the 2-hour documentary air on WFYI for the first time?
The full documentary airs on October 25th. This is a story that resonates. Eva recently did an interview on BuzzFeed that has 189 million views.
Whoa.
So people around the world are interested in her story, and we like to think that we are telling it in full for the first time. And so we're excited to spread this as wide as we can.
Well, Ted Green, thank you for all of your contributions to not only our local community, but the world.
Julie, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
And you are watching Boomer TV. So there are lots of things, maybe even some in this room, full of hot air.
Oh, she went there.
I've got more hot air than you. You know I love you. Hot air ballooning. Have you ever done it?
I've had the opportunity to do it, but it's never happened at the last minute or whatever. I should do it.
Well, Mel McMahon is doing it.
Way to go, Mel.
Yeah, you got the hot air balloon. Well, she's got a little bit of hot air, not as much as us.
No,
but
yeah.
I'm curious to see this. A lot of it happens. Well, a lot of people in Indiana do this. So let's watch the segment and just.
At Indiana Originals, we're simplifying your search for local through a website and an app full of amazing local Indiana-based businesses. All of our members are locally owned and operated. They're headquartered here in Indiana and not part of an out-of-state franchise. Today, we're with Indiana Originals member Midwest Balloon Rides and Tony Sandlin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us about what we're going to be doing today.
Well, we're going to go up and experience the sky. We're going to take off in a few minutes. We're going to soar up to 2,000 feet and get to see a little bit of everything.
All right, let's lift off. Bye.
We might get to see a reflection in the water there as we come over, which is kind of cool. Pretty clear. You can see downtown Indy.
Wow. Now you have another basket that's really appealing to some people. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this basket is an easy access basket, and we usually sometimes we take 4, but we use this a lot for private rides for 2 people. Well, the next basket we have is a door basket also, but it has a floor system and a harness system so we can take a wheelchair. So someone in a wheelchair can sit here and see right out the basket, and it makes it really nice for them. So that's a very unique thing. The door basket's becoming more popular with balloonists, but the handicap basket's still very unique. It's kind of hard to find that anywhere. And not just a wheelchair ride, but somebody that can't stand for a full hour, they can use the wheelchair that way.
And it's about more than just the experience, too. There's so much science that goes behind this, and I know you're trying to pass along that science and that interest to younger kids.
Right. We do some school programs where we go out and teach the history of ballooning, the science of ballooning, and the math of ballooning. There's a lot of math to it, too, when you're figuring out what to do, where to fly, and what temperatures and that kind of thing.
And what have been the reactions of the kids when they're learning how all of this works?
They're always in awe, and when we do it, we're inside the balloon. Not hot inflated, of course, but cold inflated, and they're sitting inside the balloon doing this classroom exercise, and they usually love it. Usually the younger kids love it a little bit more, you know, but it's a great experience for them.
Well, it's beautiful right now, and I can't wait to just take in more of the view.
This is the perfect morning. Morning flights are really ideal for balloons. The weather's better, you get more control, more steerage we call it, because as we go up and down, the balloon will go different directions. In the evening, it's pretty much point A to point B. The wind doesn't go off as much. So we do evening flights. Most people don't like to get up early, but morning flights are a lot nicer.
Well, you do specialty flights too. I mean, we're just hanging out, having fun, learning about the balloon ride, but some pretty special occasions take place in this basket.
Absolutely. We do engagement flights. That's very popular. We do weddings. We do a lot of weddings. We got a few coming up. And then we do a lot of anniversaries and birthdays, that kind of thing.
Just get such a different view and a different appreciation for
Absolutely.
where we live from up here. Now, Tony, I know you're not always up in the balloon. You're not always doing these long 1-hour flights. You go to parties, you do all kinds of stuff. How else can people experience a balloon ride?
We do tethered rides, and tethered rides are great when you have 25 or more people that want to ride. You don't want to spend quite as much money. We come out to your event, your location, and we tie the balloons off the 4 vehicles, and we just go up and down. We go up about 80 or 90 feet. It's a great experience if you've never been in a balloon. Once you've been in a balloon, it's not quite the same, but for those that have never experienced, it's a great, less cost way to do it. You know, ballooning is very expensive, so the costs do reflect that, but with the tethered rides, it's about maybe $15 a person. And we can come out to a party in about 3 hours and take up 200 people. And if you're afraid of heights, a tethered ride is an awesome way to experience that. You're not too far off the ground. We can get you right back to the ground instantly. So it's just a great way to experience it.
Smooth landing. And just like that, it's over. Tony, thank you so much for taking us up this morning.
No problem. It was a great morning. Was it worth getting up early for?
It was definitely worth getting up early for. Tony Sandlin, Midwest Balloon Rides. I'm Mel McMahon with Indiana Originals for Boomer TV.
I love watching Westerns, I think, still, because it reminds me of my dad. My dad always loved Western movies. Gunsmoke.
Oh, yeah.
We would watch every
John
week.
Wayne.
Yeah, John Wayne.
All the stereotypes.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Lone Ranger.
Yeah, and that's an important part of, I guess, American cinema history,
and
too.
history.
Yeah.
And you can find out about it. The Adel Museum is actually has an exhibit featuring that, and one of our Boomer reporters has gone to check it out.
Cowboy Michael Atwood.
Johanna Bloom with the Idlejohn. Pleased to meet you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Tell our viewers where we are here and what's going on.
Sure. Well, so the Real West is our latest exhibit here at the Idlejohn Museum, and that's R-E-E-L, like, you know, a real
A
film.
play on words.
Yeah, but part of what we're exploring is the way that Westerns have shaped the way we think about the world around us and sort of influenced our own sort of mythology and the romance of you know, that idea of the great Western experience.
And one of the first things that people coming into this exhibit will see is Hi-Ho Silver. We have the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. So we have some costume pieces, including the gun holster and mask that were worn by Clayton Moore when he was playing the Lone Ranger on television.
You show movies.
Yeah, we have our sort of immersive theater space here, which is a great spot to sit down and watch some trailers that we've pulled together. And it's reflective of the broad mix of Westerns that are then talked about in the exhibit as well.
One of my favorite things, obviously over here, hats.
Yes, you can.
Hats are very important to telling the story of Western.
Yes, you really can't underestimate the significance of hats. Obviously, you chose to wear a white hat today.
I did because I'm a good guy.
Yeah, but it's really not that simple, and that's part of what we explore here. So we have, you know, a case of white hats and a case of black hats, but you'll find when you look a little closer that there are heroes and villains mixed into both.
And as we look over here, what about the evolving role of the woman?
Another big theme that we're exploring in this space is diversity and representation in Westerns and how people have been misrepresented in Westerns as well, and sort of negative stereotypes that have been perpetuated by Westerns. But you know, women are definitely a part of that story.
Music in Westerns. And here we have Gene Autry's singing cowboy guitar.
And the singing cowboy films are a great sort of transition point from Westerns that were made primarily for an adult audience to Westerns that were for more of a family audience as well.
We got to talk a little bit about dun 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 dun. That's right. Bonanza. My mother watched Bonanza every week. And here it's put in the context of the Cold War.
Yeah, so you know, the television Westerns really were taking off in the midst of the Cold War era. And the influence of that period of time and the politics and sort of cultural happenings in the world, and it was really the heyday for television Westerns in particular.
As we see here, children they're all dressed as cowboys.
Yeah.
And a cowgirl. And part of the kid-friendly side, right behind us, it's Howdy Doody time.
Yeah, so there were, you know, a number of television series in particular that were geared at younger audiences. So we wanted to explore kind of that influence on kids too.
There's even a science fiction side of Westerns.
Yeah, you know, Westerns are constantly reinventing themselves in order to stay relevant. And one of the ways they do that is by blending with other genre. And sci-fi Westerns in particular, I think, have always been kind of on the margins, but sustaining themselves, doing quite well.
Like Westworld.
Yeah, like the show that's on now.
The new Westworld. Moving over here, we see, again, we're in the Eiteljorg Museum, and we see this Native American experience, and that's something that has surely really evolved over the years to something that today is seen as almost cartoonish and nothing to do with the real West.
Yeah, so the role of Native people in Westerns, you know, it's a complicated history. You're seeing a lot more films now that are using Native actors, Native consultants, Native directors, Native writers. You know, these are all good things in terms of better representation of people in film.
What do you want people to come here and view and take away from all of these years of the real West?
What I really hope is that folks come in here and they're maybe a little surprised. Maybe they find out about a film they didn't know about beforehand, and maybe find a new favorite. If they weren't a fan of Westerns to begin with, maybe they find something that piques their interest and gets them to explore the genre a little more deeply, because it has been so important and influential to us as a culture.
Ma'am, again, pleasure meeting you. Thanks so much for taking us through this wonderful exhibit, The Real West, at the Eiteljorg Museum.
Thank you for coming in.
And for Boomer TV, I'm Michael Atwood.
I don't know if you noticed this, but we're aging.
Is there something on me?
No, we're aging, and our parents are aging, Paul.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to make decisions.
There's an organization in Indiana that kind of keeps track of all the options that you may have or your parents may have.
The Indiana Assisted Living Association. If you've got questions about where to go, what to do, they've got a little bit of something for everybody.
When does the happy hour start?
Yeah, like that too, actually.
Let's take a look.
All right.
Hi, I'm Lou Stoops, and I'm with Liz Carroll, the Executive Director of the Indiana Assisted Living Association, and we're at Woodland Terrace, a very beautiful place. Liz, would you share with the Boomer audience a little bit about some of the things that are different today in the area of assisted living and what it's about?
Well, I think a lot of people have an idea that assisted living is sort of nursing home light. You know, it's for people who are going to be moving into a nursing home very soon, and that's not the case anymore. As boomers think about what they want and what their parents want, they don't want nursing home light. They want a place with amenities. They want a place with fine dining. They want fitness classes. They want beautifully decorated common areas. And I think that's one of the things that Woodland Terrace really represents, and that's one of the reasons that I thought this would be a good place to come visit.
For those people who might not really have a clear handle on what it means to be considering assisted living or going into assisted living, can you give us kind of just a simple version of that?
Well, it really means, it can mean anything from assistance with, you get your meals, you have some laundry, some housekeeping, maybe transportation to your doctor's appointments, all the way up to medication administration. So I think if you're considering assisted living, call the community, ask what they provide, have kind of a list of what you need and what you think you might need, and then go visit. Visiting is hugely important.
Okay.
And usually they will give you lunch.
Now, when you're thinking about assisted living, how do you broach that subject with someone that may, well, have that need, but may not at this time realize they have that need?
It doesn't always go well, those conversations, but I think you have to keep trying. And I think there are some resources out there to help you have the conversation, but also to think about the cost of assisted living. We've got a calculator on our website, for example, that we try and set out what the different expenses are that you have currently and the expenses you might have in an assisted living community. People are concerned about the expense, but when you line it up, it's not as expensive as you think. And then if you can add in what your children are providing to you in terms of uncompensated care and support, and you know, sometimes the calculus does weigh in favor of an assisted living or in an independent living community.
Any other things as far as what they can do is if they're considering assisted living or want to know more about it? I know you have a website that provides resources. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a picture of the specifics of that?
We have a lot of articles that I think are helpful. We talk about pets and how to find a pet-friendly community. You know, we talk about some of the aspects of assisted living that people don't think about, maybe, like the socialization.
Yes.
And we're sitting in a lovely bar, and this community has a couple of restaurants and different classes and clubs, and I think it's so important to socialize as you get older and not to remain just housebound, which unfortunately many seniors are, and their boomer children are quite concerned about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, if you're interested in information about assisted living and all that's entailed in that very important and vast subject, you can go to the Indiana Assisted Living Association's website and check it out. This has been Lou Stoops with Boomer TV.
Mickey Mauer's been involved in, well, radio stations in Indianapolis before, still involved with the IBJ for a long time.
And camp.
And camp.
Don't forget he holds his camp.
Every summer he goes to camp.
Yeah, and he invites a lot of his friends to go with him. You probably, if you haven't heard of it, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, you'll want to watch this segment to find out.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things that are going on in your life today, some of the new things?
Well, we're very excited right now because Mickey's Camp starts in August. It's the 18th iteration of Mickey's Camp. And we have a men and a women's camp. And so we're very excited about collecting campers, as we do every year about this time. And Mickey's Camp is an opportunity for adults, it's an adult camp, to get together and learn adult skills. I researched and got the United States experts and professionals, all the things I wanted to learn, and called them up and recruited them to come to Indianapolis. And I told them it was going to be a charitable endeavor, and so most of them said, okay, we'll come, and come for nothing. We've raised millions of dollars. This is in the 17 years we've done this, and all going to Central Indiana Charity. So that's the way it's been ever since.
Let's talk a little bit about this new development. I understand that there's a documentary being made about you, and I'd love you to tell us a little bit about how that's going and when that might be released.
Isn't that awful, Glenn? I mean, it's terrible. My directive to this lady, this very talented lady, Julia Whitehead, I said, Julia, okay, you can do this, but you have to promise not to show the film until after I die. So I'm hoping that she'll keep that
Honor
promise.
that,
Yeah.
yes. Well, hopefully that'll be a long time.
Well, she wants me to hurry up the process so she can show the film.
So she can get it done?
Yeah.
Tell me about how it felt to be and do what you did down at IU, at your alma mater, with the gift in the building.
Well, a very bad time. Remember, we had a recession.
Yeah.
It was about that time. Things weren't going very well. So I made that pledge. It was a fairly large pledge. And I was feeling kind of, oh my gosh, what have I done? So on the way home from Bloomington, we hadn't had dinner, but all we could afford after that pledge was we had dinner at Steak and Shake that night.
Right.
So that was probably the highlight of giving the...
Of doing it, was a double cheese, all-American. Where did you learn the fundamentals of business?
Well, when I was young, my father had a junkyard. That's how he made his living. And there's a big sign, it said, "We meet by accident."
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it was a family affair. And so I worked there every Saturday as a kid, and then every summer. I did learn my entrepreneurism there because at the junkyard, parts were for sale, and they had no price tags. So every single sale was a matter of negotiation. That's what entrepreneurs do.
Absolutely.
And so I was privileged to be part of that and negotiate with all kinds of people coming in. And they, particularly since they felt like since I was small and maybe starting at 10 years old, that they could take advantage of me. So what a great training ground to be able to engage in this great game of entrepreneurism at a junkyard where it's really where the rubber meets the road, particularly if you're selling a tire, I would say.
That's exactly right.
So that's where I learned this wonderful game, and I enjoyed it immensely.
And you did all that before you had your driver's license.
Oh, way before.
Mickey, that's an incredible story. Thank you again for your time today. We really appreciate it. It was an honor to meet you. This is Glenn Bill for Boomer TV.
Well, Paul, we got the party started, and now it's time to say goodnight.
We've been up high, well, in a balloon.
Yeah, sure.
It's time to come back down again. Okay. Yeah.
Be a child of the 60s. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed all the segments tonight. We're glad that you watched it with us.
We'll do it again soon right here on Boomer TV. For more all things Boomer, just visit our website. That's indieboomer.com. Indie Boomer connects TV, magazine, and radio. It contains useful information for baby boomers all over the Indianapolis metropolitan area. And you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Pick up Indie Boomer magazine at most Kroger stores and libraries. Look for us all over Indy.
Listen to Boomer Radio every Saturday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. on Freedom 95 with a rebroadcast Sundays at 7:30. Indie Boomer, for the next chapter of your life.
Boomer TV is made possible with support from
Westport Homes, dedicated to building homes for every chapter of life, with plans and details that match a customer's specific needs and style. More information on Westport Homes' lifestyle collection, including community locations, at westport-home.com.
With over 70 years of combined legal experience, Altman, Poindexter, and Wyatt attorneys serve clients throughout Central Indiana with wills, trust, and estates. More information is available at apwlawyer.com.
Unique Home Solutions, serving more than 30,000 homeowners since 1983. Providing home remodeling services from minor updates to complete renovations with a mission to improve appearance and efficiency. More at uniquehomesolutions.org.